The reason we're doing some of these recipes and keeping them really simple is we just want to show people how easy it is and how simple it is, that we shouldn't be afraid of using some of these slightly different ingredients. And when you are using these indigenous ingredients, you're supporting these indigenous producers directly. Haumatakupe. My name is Sean Sherman. I am the executive director here at NATIFS and the Indigenous Food Lab, including our restaurant Awamni. So today we're here to talk about some really simple recipes. Some of these are coming from the restaurant Awamni, some of them are coming from our market here at the Indigenous Food Lab Market, and mostly we're just here to promote some of our amazing indigenous food products that we're utilizing and selling here at the Indigenous Food Lab Market. We have things like Ramona Farms tepary beans, we've got Red Lake Nation's pure maple syrup, we've got some local sunflower oil that we use for a lot of our cooking. And of course we have some hand-harvested wild rice that we're going to be utilizing. And so we really want people to just consider where their food products are coming from, who's producing them, and how we can make that more of our lifestyle by utilizing some of these beautiful indigenous produced foods. And we're trying to do something different by just creating a market space to bring in as many indigenous producers as possible. The focus of NATIFS is really to not only create access to indigenous foods, but create awareness to the education around especially indigenous foods. We focus on a lot of education, but foods is a central part of everything that we do. Food is something that nourishes us. Food is our medicine. Food is something that we have deep relations to that we can share with our ancestry. And for far too long, indigenous foods have been left out of the conversation across many regions of the world, especially in America. So our work is extremely important as we're trying to showcase how we can normalize indigenous foods, how we can think about modernizing indigenous foods into this new generation, and making sure that the next generations have access and understanding to what these foods are. So all of these recipes that we do follow our philosophy of cutting out colonial ingredients. So we won't see any wheat flour, cane sugar, beef, pork, chicken, dairy products. And we're really focusing on highlighting these amazing indigenous foods, both wild, domesticated, harvested, and a lot of wild game. So today we're just doing 3 really easy recipes. This recipe that I'm going to start off with, which is roasted and grilled sweet potatoes, topped off with a very simple maple chili crisp, and I'm just going to talk through how we've created all these components. This has been a very popular dish at Awamni since its inception. We opened the doors of Awamni in 2021, and we've basically been sold out every night since then. We even won the James Beard Award for Best New American Restaurant, which is a massive award for us to be able to stand out. And so this recipe is really simple because basically this recipe reminds me of my time spent in Mexico when I really had the epiphany to do this work around indigenous foods. So for me, growing up on the reservation, starting a very young career in kitchens and restaurants in the late 80s, and cooking all through high school and college, and eventually moving to Minneapolis, and eventually working my way into a chef position, I was able to learn a lot of different styles of culinary technique, and especially when you're reading a lot of cookbooks, you're learning a lot of French and European styles. And a few years into that chef career, I realized the complete absence of indigenous foods out there. So it set me on a path to try and understand, why aren't indigenous foods a thing? Like, why are there no Native American restaurants hardly at all out there? Why are there very few books on this subject? And it really forced me to look at, like, what were the food systems of my ancestry? And why can't we have a space to be able to come together to celebrate these amazing foods, this amazing knowledge? And so this dish for me came about when I was living in Mexico on the West Coast. I was living in the state of Nayarit, in a very small town called San Francisco. And it's more well known as San Pancho. Living in this small town for quite a few months, one of my favorite things was whenever the camotes would come around. So typically in the evening, there'd be a lot of food stands and people moving around vending some foods. And every now and again, you would hear this really loud whistle in the dark. And you would know that the guy with the camotes was coming around selling steamed plantains and steamed sweet potatoes. And you'd always have some chili, some salt, and some lime to add to that if you prefer. But it was such a simple dish, and it just really reminded me of the earthiness of all these ingredients that happen to be indigenous. And so when we opened up Awamni, we put this dish on there, utilizing a lot of the harvest of the chilies from the season. So we used the recipe that you will see online will have 5 different chilies that we use. They're all dried, and we basically grind them all up into a powder form. And then we heat up some oil to really hot, and we're using sunflower oil. And we just bring this oil up to a really high temperature, and then we pour it over the chilies carefully. And the chilies basically just fry there in the oil. When the chilies and the oil finally start to cool down, we'll stir in some maple syrup to give the oil a really nice sweetness, but making sure that it's not too hot to scorch or burn those sugars. And so this has been a really beautiful dish because it's something so simple. It's basically just roasted sweet potatoes. We just roast them with the skin on, whole, until they're super tender, and you can easily pierce it with a knife or a fork. And then we just build these on the plate little by little. And this has been, again, like one of the most popular dishes at the restaurant. And it's been the one dish that's actually stayed on the menu for its entirety so far, because we've been open just over 3 years to this point today. So we basically just arrange these beautiful sweet potatoes with these wonderful grill marks, and then we just drizzle on some of this really flavorful, aromatic, and just really beautiful sauce. And so again, this is just a maple chili crisp, and for me, it's just a great way to preserve your chilies from the season. And it's just a really simple and beautiful side dish that basically everybody will enjoy, and it's a lot of fun to make. And you can basically garnish this with anything. I have with me a little bit of dried garlic flowers, and we're just going to sprinkle that across the board. And voila, just the simplest little dish. Beautiful, flavorful, earthy, indigenous. And so we'll post this recipe online. The sweet potatoes take about 40 minutes if they're really large ones, maybe a little bit less if they're smaller. But basically you can just fork test them. We'll bake them at 325 because we don't want the skins to get too dark on the outside. So it's a nice kind of medium slow bake. And you just cook them until they're super tender, so you can easily push a knife through it, easily push a fork through it. And then we just let them rest. And then basically we just cut them in half and throw them on a grill. You can skip that part, but the grill really adds a nice earthiness because of the charring that happens, burning off those sugars, and it really adds to the dish, especially with the charred chilies and the sweetness of the maple. So it all really works out well. We're just gonna move right into this next dish. And so basically this one's really simple. Basically I'm just using some of our hand-harvested wild rice. This stuff's so beautiful. So if you've never cooked with hand-harvested wild rice, especially from here in Minnesota, it's completely different than the black wild rice that you might find out there in the grocery stores, because the black wild rice was modified so it could be cultivated in paddies. But this is the stuff that grows wild on the lakes. It's still harvested with canoes, and it's parched over fire after the harvest season. Harvest season's usually in September. The global warming is kind of shifting the timing on that a little tiny bit, but we're still really proud to have so much amazing, beautiful wild rice coming out of the Minnesota Great Lake region. And then this dish is something that you could basically use in many different ways. And the true hand-harvested wild rice, it's really so much more tender and delicate than that black stuff, because that black stuff will just take forever to cook, and it never really quite softens up, where you have to be a lot more tender, a lot more, just keeping an eye on this rice as it's cooking, because it really takes no time to cook. We're basically cooking, we'll rinse the rice really well with water first and then strain that. And then we'll basically just do a one-to-one rice to water ratio as we're cooking this rice, and it really blows up. So you can kind of see a little bit like how much lighter this is in color, and how just beautiful, and it's really tender. It's really delicate. And so we're just making a really simple wild rice pilaf. So you can basically throw everything in one pot at the same time. So with this recipe, I threw in some dried cranberries. You can chop them up a little bit, but you can use any dried berries. We used elderberries, we've used aronia berries, blueberries, anything that you want to. But cranberries are a nice touch because they obviously grow in this region too. I used a little bit of dried ramp powder, which is just a wild onion. So we get a lot of wild ramps in the springtime, and we just let it basically dry up all the greens, all the green tops and some of the bulbs, and just let them get them nice and crispy, and then we just pulverize them into a powder. And basically we get to use this amazing wild onion powder throughout the year. And it's just still got so much aromatics of onion. I'm also throwing in some of these dried garlic flowers that we were using in the last recipe because it's just a really nice touch. And a little bit of salt, a little bit of pure maple, just to give it a little bit of roundedness. And it doesn't need much because a little bit of pure maple goes a long ways. And you never want to use the fake maple because it just gives it a weird off flavor. We'll add a little bit of sunflower oil too, because a little bit of fat really helps kind of disperse all the flavors. And then we're just going to bring that up to basically just heat this up till it's warm. So this is a great recipe to use with with some leftover wild rice. If you wanted to throw everything in one pot, cook the rice, it's also just an easy one-pot dish just to be able to create something that you can feed your whole family with, and it's highly nutritious. There's a lot of amazing vitamins in this situation and nutrition, and it's just a really wonderful flavor of what is the Great Lakes region. So this wild rice is so beautiful, and we're so lucky because this wild rice really only grows in this very small region of the Great Lakes around Minnesota, Wisconsin, a little bit of Michigan, above us in Canada. And the wild rice really has so much cultural importance to the tribes of this region. So again, like we have this rice at the Indigenous Food Lab Market. So you can come to our store at the Midtown Global Market in South Minneapolis, or you can just go to our website at natifs.org and you can find some variations of this rice for sale on our market space. And we encourage everybody to be able to order some of these, especially for the holiday seasons when they come around, but for any celebration or just have around your pantry. It's just a wonderful pantry item. All right, so we're just gonna let this lightly kind of marinate and get all this flavor kind of going. I added a little tiny bit of water to help incorporate it and just tried to cook that water out a little bit. And then we're just going to jump right in. And again, this is such a simple and beautiful and easy side dish for anybody to be able to make. So usually when we're cooking from scratch, about 20 to 25 minutes maximum will be about the right time for the rice to be done. But again, like you can cook it more for your preference. So just keep an eye on it. If you think it's a little dry, feel free to add a little bit more water. You can cook it in a rice cooker, you can cook it in a pot. It's really up to your preference. But yeah, it's just something that's worth getting used to. It's something that's worth having around your pantry. And again, it's just so much more beautiful and different than the cultivated black wild rice that we see too often out there. All right, so you ready to taste something?
Yeah.
All right, why don't you say what your name is?
I'm Wawikia Black Elk.
Awesome. How old are you?
9 years old.
All right. So what we made was some basic wild rice pilaf. So it's just wild rice. It's got some cranberries. It's got some wild ramps. You know what wild ramps are?
Yeah, I've had ramps before. They're amazing.
They're awesome, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then we also have, do you know what this is?
No.
So dried garlic.
Garlic.
So we put a little bit of garlic flowers on there. You can smell it?
Smells kind of like tea.
A little bit, right? And this smells like ramps, doesn't it? It smells oniony.
Yeah. It smells really good.
Yep. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of that on there, and I'm gonna add just a little bit more maple, because who doesn't like maple?
Yeah, who doesn't like it?
So what's your favorite thing about wild rice?
Well, I think it's its flavor, honestly.
All right, let's try a little bit of this. It's gonna be a little bit hot, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna blow on it and taste it. Hot? A little too hot? A little too hot. Let's do that take again.
Okay. Still hot, but controllable.
Yeah? How's the flavor?
Really good.
Yeah, what would you want to eat that with if you had your choice?
Probably the cranberries.
Cranberries? More cranberries?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Awikia. I'll see you later. Thanks for coming in. All right, so we're just gonna jump into this last one, and this one's also a really simple one. So I basically already pre-cooked up some of these beans, and these are some red beans, but we can use all sorts of beans. And if you wanted to use some native beans, we do sell these amazing tepary beans from Ramona Farms. And we've got brown, black, and white. I really prefer using the brown and white kind of mixed when you're making a kind of a baked bean dish like this. But basically, you're just making these beans a little bit sweet. So you can add a good amount of maple to these beans, and we'll get this heat going a little bit. And it's nice just to throw these right in the oven if you want to, and just let them sit there with a lid on. I like to use a heavy cast iron dish with a heavy lid on it, and just let them roast in the oven for a while to get them all steamed and get all of that flavor combined together. And it's just using some of the different seasonings. Again, I'm using a little bit of wild ramp powder. I'm going to use a little bit of salt, of course. I'm going to use a little bit of dried sumac. And the sumac we have quite a bit of. So this is the Staghorn Sumac. And the Staghorn Sumac basically kind of grows all over the place, the huge area of North America. And it's this outer kind of fuzzy layer that's really got a lot of this flavor. So when you see it on the road, you can just taste it and see if it's got that flavor in it. But basically just, pull off all these little seeds carefully and just grind everything up into a powder, and you just get a really beautiful powder with a lot of flavor, a lot of citric kick to it. So it's a really cool free seasoning that's just kind of all over the place. And so we're just bringing this up to a little bit of a boil. I'm also going to add a little bit of oil to this. This is some sunflower oil. And you can add whatever you want. Because I have some of this amazing chili crisp right here, I'm going to throw a little bit of that in there too, because there's really no rules of how you want to season things, and it's best to kind of use what you have in front of you. And this is just going to be a really simple, beautiful, it's going to have just a little tiny bit of spice from these chilies. And then the last piece I want to use are some of these spice berries. And I'm just going to crush these up and add a few of these to the pot. And the reason we're doing some of these recipes and keeping them really simple is we just want to show people how easy it is and how simple it is, that we shouldn't be afraid of using some of these slightly different ingredients. And there's when you are using these indigenous ingredients, you're supporting these indigenous producers directly. I think it's really important for us to be really intentional about who we're purchasing from, where we're buying our products, who's growing it, and where are our food dollars actually going to. So it's something that we think about a lot at the restaurant Awamni, here at the Indigenous Food Lab, and we're just trying to connect more and more opportunity for these indigenous producers to sell a lot of this amazing product. And so these dishes are really super simple. And again, you can let this cook for about 45 minutes in the oven, probably at 325 with the lid on. You can take the lid off towards the end to kind of let it kind of steam out a little bit. But it's just something really simple. We're just kind of doing this really quick and letting this boil down. But we're going to taste this in just a few minutes. We're going to let this cook for a little bit. All right, so here to help me taste test this one is the lovely Francesca.
Hello.
So we just did a really simple baked beans dish, and I just kind of used some of the ingredients we had.
Oh, nice.
And so there was just some of this ramp powder, some of the garlic flowers,
Flowers are good.
And then this was the epazote, which is kind of like bergamot-ish a little bit,
Yeah. Smells really
so
good.
These are just maple baked beans, a simple side dish anybody can make at home. Mm-hmm. You can throw all this stuff into one pot and just let it go for a long time. It's good?
That was really good.
Good.
My mouth is full.
Yeah, it's really super simple. And
That would be really good with a side of squash or even some smoked turkey.
absolutely. Yeah, because we're hoping people can use some of these things. We're hoping people will come down to the market or order from us online and order some of these cool ingredients. And we just want to keep making cool videos like this to be able to show people how to do this stuff.
I mean, I want this recipe, so.
There we go. Yeah, we'll make sure we share it.
Yes.
Thank you, Francesca, for stopping by. And thank you guys for watching this video. I know we just kind of blew through these recipes, but again, we're just trying to keep them really simple. We'll post these recipes with this video. And it's just encouraging you to buy some indigenous products, support indigenous producers, support us as a nonprofit, and all the work that we're attempting to do. It's important to help share the stories of indigenous peoples, indigenous cultures, to think about the land that you're standing on. Let's just all work towards a better future together.